Well, let's make it official. Let's go ahead and do the full introduction. Danny
Let's do it.
Miranda, welcome to the show. We're going to turn it up because, y'all, this one is going to hit hard. I've got a very special guest today. He is a true powerhouse on the low end, legendary bassist Danny Miranda from Blue Oyster Cult, Foghat, Queen, Rodgers, Meat Loaf, and Bad Penny. This is a guy who doesn't just play bass, he drives the entire sound. Danny is a Fender endorsed player artist. He has been inducted into the Long Island Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He is a producer and has shared the stage with several Grammy award winning artists. So, Danny, welcome. How are you? You look fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Really happy to be here. Great to talk to you and great to reach out to my friends in Texas and everywhere.
Yeah. So, if you had to say the one thing right now that comes, what's the most exciting thing right now going on in your life in terms of music and career? What's flowing through your life and in your where you're at right now?
Well, I guess the expansion and the versatility of it more. The band is not working as much as it has been in the past, which is opening up uh, opportunities for me to play with other people. And I guess it's a blessing and a curse when you're with a band that's working all the time. You don't have room to play with other people.
Mhm.
And now there's lots of other pockets. And in fact, I've been practicing a lot. I'm going to be playing with this band called Go Now, this Moody Blues. It's a Moody Blues tribute thing. They're from the UK. And it contains the drummer from the Moody Blues, who was with them, I guess, the last 20 years or so. And we're doing a bunch of shows down in Florida in April, and then I'm going to Italy with a good friend. A good friend of mine lives there. He's a Long Islander, but he married a Roman. So this will be the second time in about 6 months that we're going to do a few shows around Florence and Rome area. And my girlfriend and I are going together like we did last time. It's going to be a working vacation. And I'm able to say yes to a lot more things now because there are more pockets in the schedule. So, and I look forward to it. I look forward to the last couple of years have been more like this, and I like it. And not being on the road 200 days a year is a good thing.
Well, congratulations on your upcoming adventures. That's awesome. And I read
Thank
on your
you.
bio, I've been actually researching a lot of your work and your personal history. And I see that you're Italian as well. So we like Italians. So that's fantastic.
We are Italian, although I can't speak a word of it, but I am Italian. Yep.
Ciao.
Yep. Ciao.
Yeah.
Ciao. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been doing that. I've been involved in this thing called Air Gigs, which is like an online session service thing, and which is really great because you can reach out to people from all over the world. I think the last couple of sessions I did were a band from Norway and a band from Mexico, and I could be in Italy, I could be here in the living room, I could be on a tour bus, and I can record and make music with people. So I've been offering that to the people at large, and love making music for other people and enhancing their songs. So I've been really loving doing that. I love recording. I mean, I love the road, but I love recording because I get to stay home more.
Yeah. That's awesome I've never been a musician personally. I'm on the other side. I talk and I have, background from my family being in the business in one way, shape, or form. But I
Yeah,
always admire how lucky musicians are because it's so expansive and there's unlimited potential to create, new work and to take it really anywhere you want. It's like there's no limits. So it's
there
always
is no limits.
evolving. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's less, it's less, I guess I don't want to say like segregated, but it's less put in these boxes now because also you kind of have to do a combination of a lot of things now. Whereas in the old days, if you were in one band, that was your full-time thing and you never had to deviate. But now people have to deviate. And also, what's wrong with that? There's place for music everywhere and all different kinds of music. And one of the great things about the internet is that it's coming from all different places. And you walk into a restaurant or you walk into a music store and you're hitting your Shazam going, well, that's cool. Or you're listening to a movie, well, I want to check out that song. And now there's music coming from everywhere. Whereas if you listen to your favorite jazz station or favorite rock station, that's all you're going to get, you know. So it expands the possibilities of all kinds of music reaching more of the masses.
Yeah, the sky's the limit. And I was
Yeah,
reading you started your own musical interest in your childhood,
yeah.
and that you had studied piano and guitar, and then ultimately you're best known, of course, for your bass work. And what made you decide, out of all the instruments, to dabble in what's in, gravitated you the most to stay with a bass?
Oh, that's a great question. It's so funny because I was just recently going through early pictures of me as a kid, and um, a picture of me playing guitar. I must have been 5 years old. So so old, I was playing lefty because I am a lefty, and I was playing this way.
Oh,
My brother told me to switch it around, but my older brother is a musician, and he's my first and biggest influence on in music and probably in life. But he's a keyboard player, and you want to be like your hero. So my brother was always my hero. So there was a grand piano in my living room, and there was an organ downstairs. So he dabbled in, he played organ in church. He had his own pop band, and he played classical piano. And he had the coolest record collection from Frank Sinatra to Jimi Hendrix. And I heard it all because I wasn't allowed to touch it because I was too young and I was a bull in a china shop. So I would ruin the records. So I heard everything. And I would sit next to him at the piano, sometimes under the piano, and watch him play. And he had a guitar because he would dabble with guitar. And he would teach me a couple of things. And the first couple of things I remember learning, three songs was Lady Madonna, Hey Joe, and Foxy Lady. And
wow.
it was
Good
on.
cuts to start with.
It was on. Yeah. So while he was away at school, because he's 12 years older than me, I would fiddle and I would pick songs out on the radio. And I'd say, is this the melody? Now, is this it? And he'd say, you got good ears. You should play. And it took me a while to find what my instrument was. And luckily, I did start with fiddling with piano and organ. And then eventually it was saxophone and then guitar and then ultimately bass. But I still like to play everything. And but that's where it started. You
Okay.
hear this, AM radio was really important because you heard everything. And even if you hate these songs, you can't get it out because you heard it 10 times in one day. And you just pick out the notes and he'll say, no, this note is wrong. This note is right. And I started to notice that I had a good relationship with music for that. It was talking to me. So I had a feeling early on that I was probably going to do something in music. Didn't know exactly what the instrument was, but thanks to him, he kept it going. And he was an influence, and it wasn't intimidating. It was actually inspiring to see this immense talent going on, power, a lot of power going on. And
So from
that's
that
it.
central moment, from that moment, where you realized this was your passion, and things started to grow and evolve from there, not just from, being a hobbyist or, a personal connoisseur, but what was the forward path movement from there, where, like, how did you really break in and hit the big time? What was your big break? Where did that exactly all begin for you? Where you,
Well, I think there was two big breaks, and the first break may not seem like a big break, but trying to find myself playing in little club bands and all these bands and this and that. I was in a weird in between age where I couldn't wait to turn 18 because that was the drinking age, where you could go and play bars. And when I turned 18, the drinking age turned to 19. Then when I turned 19, the drinking age turned to 21 and
Ah,
everything folded. So all that fun that my brother had, I thought that was my future. So it wasn't kind of there. Everybody joined wedding bands because all the rock clubs closed. So the good part about that is you had much hipper musicians now playing weddings. It wasn't just this schmaltzy stuff. And I joined this amazing wedding band called Naked Truth that were a rock band that all of a sudden the people who would come to see them started dating and getting married and wanted them at their wedding. So they wanted cool music. So we played everything. And I was really a deer in the headlights on a lot of this stuff. And I learned how to play all different kinds of music because they played it all and played it well. And we played all the time. It's like if you're a runner and if you run every day, it's like you are in shape. And we were doing 4 or 5 weddings every weekend. And
oh,
my chops were great. I was fearless. And that primed me for eventually joining Blue Oyster Cult, which threw me right to the wolves. You know, I would never I never toured. I never played with a recording band, so to speak. So that was like right into the big leagues, so to speak. And it was trial by fire, and where you feel like you're building the car while you're driving it, and you think but there's a lot you don't know. And as the years went on, I started to get better and smarter and wiser, I guess. Hopefully, I think wiser. And so that was really those two big breaks um, were amazing. The rigors of the road and the challenges and the perks of the road came with Blue Oyster Cult. As far as learning how to play everything, um, playing all kinds of music. And my brother told me that at a young age, even if you don't like it, play everything, listen to everything, find out why it's important, find out why it's successful. And one day you may need it. And if you're lucky, you might just like it too, you know? So we're not always fortunate that everything we play, we love. Um, but still, you have to treat it with the same respect.
yeah, you've played with some legendary artists across rock and roll and pop. Out of all the collaborations you've done so far with all these different bands and artists that you've worked with, which one has been the most influential for you so far?
Mm, influential. I have to say it was the Queen experience because I don't know, because of the enormity of how they are. And also I realized that we're kind of all the same in a way, maybe because they're older too. They listen to all kinds of music, and you could talk to them about ragtime music as easily as Elvis Presley and Little Richard. And because they grew up in post-war England, where the only thing on the radio, there was no rock and roll. There was no such thing. And they grew up with everything, and it's all in the music. So I think that was not only as an experience exciting, but as an influence about, you're talking about a lot of old souls there that knew probably more about jazz music and blues music than most of the people who play it, because all you had back then was the radio. Hi,
There you are, my friend.
I may have hit, and I'm sorry, my ear was
Don't
falling
worry. I,
out.
I,
I'm
I
sorry.
I do things like that every day. It's all good, my friend.
Sorry. All right, here we go.
Fine.
So anyway, that was probably the most influential, and also, and watching my brother too. I was there like roadie at a lot of the gigs they played, just really to just learn the ropes and knowing how they can deal with playing all different kinds of music was really important to me, and noticing how that music excited me. All kinds, horn music, R&B, oldies, rock, um, ballads, um, watching the people that you really admire uh, play things and play them well was a big influence to me.
Fun. I know your playing style has gained a reputation for being known as blending precision along with groove together. Now, when you approach a new song you're going to play, what is the first thing that you listen or feel for as a bassist?
The melody and then the lyrics. Yeah, the
Order.
melody. I try and think like a singer. I'm not a singer, but to me, my favorite players, regardless of the instrument, have always traditionally been singers. Whether it's it's a singing piano player, a singing drummer, a singing bass player, because I think the melody is most important and the easiest neglected. I want to play this, and you're sitting on what you feel sits best for you on that instrument, and maybe neglecting, well, where does the vocal fit in? Because the song is nothing without the melody, whether it's instrumental or not, whether it's John Coltrane or Elton John, the melody is king, you know? And that to me is first and foremost with my students or anybody who asks advice about that. If that's my biggest lesson that I could pass on, it's that. And I've seen it fail. I've seen drummers start songs too fast because they think it sounds great and the singer's out of breath.
Ah,
To me, you lose.
got a
You
pace.
lose. Yeah. So, melody is king and the song is king.
You've also worked with bands that have very different musical identities. How do you adapt your bass tone and technique to rotate and fit each artist and band sounds that you've worked with?
That's a great question. Because I think about that all the time. I think about what bass am I going to bring? How am I going to sound depending on who's in the band, how big the drum sound is, how
Mhm.
high the singer sings, how many guitar players, where do I fit in? And to their credit, a lot of them do the same thing too. So if the drummer's got a really bottom heavy sound, I try and move up more to the mid range and stay out of the real estate because it's all real estate, you know? And so and also, what kind of sound do they have? Are they dirty enough? Do I need to add more dirt to my sound, or are they too dirty?
Or grit.
And I noticed that they adjust as well. Oh, when Danny's on the gig, he's got a bigger sound than the other bass player. So let's narrow it down a little bit and make room for him.
Awesome. What was, and I know that there's not one answer to this question, understandably so, but if you had a certain moment on stage in particular where you've just felt the energy of the crowd completely transform the performance by their reactions to your playing, and you were engaged with them to the extent you can be, the audience, but you're up there, the spotlight's on you. What would that moment be where you were just so connected?
I mean, I've been fortunate that there have been moments like that periodically, but I would say the most consistent moment, I guess, two songs with Queen, Dust, another one bites the dust, but Under Pressure. And I can't take any credit for that because that's John Deacon. That's the genius of John Deacon. And I get the blessing of being able to be a messenger for it. But when you play that bass line, you're watching like a soccer game. Everybody's bouncing, and I can do that forever. And I got them, and they got me. And like we're all celebrating this beautiful energy. But to see it, all of a sudden you start playing, and like if a team scores a goal, the energy immediately changes in the room and it just stays. And they're with you. And I'd say it's got to be those two moments that would stand out particularly.
I was reading that you've actually gained quite a following amongst fans and aspiring bass musicians. They really perceive you as someone they look up to, a mentor, an example of what defines an excellent, powerful bass player. On behalf of the people that are watching this, what advice would you maybe say to developing fellow bass players who want to build a professional long-term career and be a professional touring successful musician?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. I would say if there's anything that I feel worked for me was uh, learning a lot of instruments, even if you're not great at it,
Mhm.
understanding because what you're playing has to complement everything. Even if you're a lead singer or a lead guitar player, it still has to complement. It's not only you. And listen before you play, I think, you know.
Yeah.
Um, I would say that listening, and I'm constantly listening. I did a gig in New York City on Saturday night, and I want to go certain places musically when we're jamming, but it depends. If the guy's playing the solo and he's going somewhere, I'm gonna just get in his passenger seat and go along with him and make the ride better. I'm not fight him like I want to take this way, you know? So
It's
I
really like you're having a temporary relationship with the other musicians as you guys are ebbing and flowing together. The dynamics of how each push and pulls really do matter in the end creation. That's interesting. Most people don't
it's
really.
interesting. Yeah, and a lot of it is subconscious and it's subliminal too. I mean, whether it's the Miles Davis quintet or the Grateful Dead or Led Zeppelin, you can feel when, the Allman Brothers used to say they're hitting the note, you know, when you really hit it and everybody's running on all cylinders, but also listening too. And I think it's letting your guard down and your ego down, not like make room for me, I've got something to say. That's an argument. That's not a conversation. That's crossfire. You know what I mean? That's not that's not a conversation.
Yeah. Now, as reading some of the technical specifications that you have preferences to, and I know there's a lot of choices out there and more
Yeah.
coming all the time in this day of innovation and creation we're in, right?
Yeah.
But I see that you like the Alien Base PlayStation. Can you tell us a little bit more about why you
Oh yeah.
fancy in particular to that system?
Okay, the alien basis, my buddies Jack and Joe Napoli from Long Island. They have this great recording studio called Cloud 9, and they started fiddling with effects pedals. And that's the first bass pedal they made. And they brought it over to me, and I just thought this was just a groovy pedal. In fact, I was playing it all last week at my house, and it's got an amplifier, a preamp kind of a thing, like an Ampeg type of system. It's got a compressor, which is really great, and a fuzz. So it's
Wow.
like you got 70s, 80s, 90s, like all three decades there. And it's a real multi-tool of a pedal. And in the age of ampless recording and ampless gigs so much these days, where your sound has to kind of be in a little pedal more than ever because nobody wants you to bring amplifiers anymore and for various reasons. And it's an easier way for you to get your sound without lugging everything and consistent too because you're not dealing with tubes and um, but they make this, I forgot the name of the pedal, but I know Joe Walsh uses it, Stevie Wonder, um, distortion pedals. I think they've got an echo pedal too. They're these crazy Italians from Long Island, and they have the best minds, and they're just the coolest people. So I love the Alien Base Station.
Is that an integral or rather is that like a separate system? I also was reading that you have some connection with preferring is it the vintage airline based system? Are those two the same thing? Or are they separate? Or is that
That I don't recall. The vintage airline based
okay?
system. I'm trying to think. I probably have mentioned it, but I don't. It escapes me right now where it's
That's
from.
okay.
It
It
could
was in
be
my,
from them.
yeah, it was in my internet pre-interview research. So the internet, as we all know, has sometimes a mind of its own.
The
So
internet can go on its own lane. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
true.
I wanted
They
to,
may have something like that. They might. So,
yeah, yeah. Now I wanted to touch with you specifically about some of the bands that you've worked with. I wanted to actually start with Foghat, and I wanted to ask you a little bit more kind of about how you were selected for Foghat and your time with them, and kind of, I did read that you were with them for a period of time, and what happened with Foghat. How was that for you?
okay. Well, Foghat. goes back almost to the beginning of me playing with Oyster. They had historically played together uh, probably since the 70s. I joined in the mid 90s. So for the last 30 years, we've played on a lot of shows together. And there was a tour 96, 97 called Summer Days. It was four bands. It was us, Steppenwolf, Pat Travers, and Foghat. And we toured from, I think, April through Labor Day. And we got to know each other really well. And I'd like to consider, you know, Foghat to be personal friends of mine as well. And we're dear friends, and we're all friendly, and we play together. We play music together. We're neighbors. Roger and Linda Earl live on Long Island, as do I, and so we've been friendly across the years. And then when I left the band to play with Queen, and then I came back, we would always run into each other at gigs. And Craig McGregor, who was I think the second or maybe third bassist, I don't know, was always a incredible influence
Mm.
on me and became a friend. And when he rejoined the band, we got to hang out a lot together. And MTV they used to have these Friday night concerts, and it was Foghat once, and it was Craig, and he was rocking, man. And never forget that feeling. So unfortunately, he got sick,
Mm.
and he had to take some time off, which also unfortunately he never came back. And they needed somebody to fill in. And I was off the road with Meat Loaf. I was playing with Meat Loaf at the time. I wasn't back with BOC. And so I filled in for them. And by the time they knew that Craig was, unfortunately going from bad to worse, and they were going to need somebody permanent, it just the stars didn't align that I was the guy. But we still remain great friends, and I was glad and honored to help out, to play these amazing bass parts, and to play with my dear friends, which I will say are the loudest band I've ever played with by a country mile, louder than Queen. I mean, I've never been yelled at
Awesome.
to play louder in my life, and couldn't. I said, "This is all I got," and it was like The Exorcist. I was levitating, and but God bless him,
Yeah,
loudest band in the world. Yeah,
that's fun. I love that explanation. The absence of discipline leads to actually being the best demonstration of your
yeah,
performance in that capacity. That's a great way to put it.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
now Queen and Paul Rodgers, and how did playing alongside Brian May and Roger Taylor feel to you to work aside those two legends?
I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out and put it into words after all these years. It's like a dream come true, but it's still a dream, like while it's happening. Um, it's otherworldly. I mean, yes, they're big all over the world, but in Europe, which is where we started first, I mean, to me, it was like Beatlemania. And
Mhm.
the energy in the rooms and how enormous it is it's like unobtainable. It's hard to imagine. And because the Europeans especially are very passionate about everything: food, music, sports, whatever.
They love
And
American rock and roll.
they love rock and roll, and they love Freddie, and they love this band. And I think the biggest surprise about it is how young the crowd was. I mean, there were a lot of people that came to the shows that weren't born when Freddie was alive. And
Mm.
I'm going, what are you doing listening to this music? It's supposed to be old music for old people,
Mhm.
And how wrong was I? But then again, they love the Beatles and Led Zeppelin, and young people have a lot of great taste in music.
Yeah.
Um, but that was, I guess, it's just hard to put into words, because the music takes over, the energy. Like you can see it leaving the stage and going to the audience, and it's like like those big bouncing balls that they kick around the arena, and it just goes from people, and they kick it and they punch it.
Yeah.
That's the energy. That's the music, and it's everybody's. And eventually you'll get a chance to kick that ball,
Yeah, they have been exceptionally multi-generational appealing. So that
Yeah.
is one of their signature trademarks of
Mm,
audience they attract. Now, tell me about kind of how things got started with you coming into Queen and how did you get the part? How did that all happen?
it was an interesting set of circumstances because my friends were playing with Meat Loaf, and Meat Loaf and the band were friendly with the Queen guys, mostly Brian. And as it happened to be, Meat Loaf was taking a couple of years off to do movies. And Queen had started this musical in London called We Will Rock You that was successful. It was on the West End, and they wanted to bring it to Vegas. So they brought in a couple of their friends from Meat Loaf's band to be in the band. They tried to get me an audition, but because of unions and I didn't know the Queen people, they couldn't get me in. So they were rehearsing for months, and Brian and Roger were not entirely happy with certain elements of the band.
Mm,
And so John Michelli, the drummer, said, "Well, I told you about my friend Danny. I said to give him a call." So then Brian says, "All right, let's give him a call." So I was in California. Just did this big gig with Deep Purple and Joe Satriani and said, "We want you to come out to audition." So I flew out to Vegas to audition, and it was not a full audition. It was the piano player who was the conductor, John on drums, and a guitar player. And I never met the Queen guys and I'm playing, and Brian comes in. I could see from the corner of my eye and sits next to me. So besides having about 7 heart attacks, I had to continue playing,
oh, bless
and
her.
I'm playing his music too,
Yes.
and so make a long story longer, I got the audition, and I had to quit Blows to Cult, move out of New York on within a week, and go to Vegas and start this new life because it's now a pit band. It's like a day job, which I adored because 10 years on the road, honestly, I needed a break. I want to put my suitcase in the closet for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I needed a break. And then this was the fall of 2004. And toward Christmas time, Brian came by to check on the band. They're like the ABBA people with Mamma Mia, very hands-on, it's their life's work, very interested, not just where's the money coming from. They're very, very interested and caring about their body of work. And so he came to check on the band, and he says, Queen's going to do a few shows next week with Paul Rodgers, but we don't know if John Deacon is going to answer his door and his phone and come out of retirement. So about a month later, Brian called me and said, "Well, he's not coming out, and we want you to come and tour with us." So that's as easily as it happened. I mean, it sounds so complicated, but it was a matter of a phone call. And then, 3 or 4 days later, I'm in London.
It was a match.
Yeah.
It was to
It's like
be.
a lifetime of preparation and overnight. It's like winning the lottery. It's like you go from here to here. It's not this
Yeah.
gradual thing. And strange.
Wow.
Yeah, strange.
Now, the Queen's music has orchestral complexity and very powerful dynamics. So, from a bassist per standpoint, what was your experience like performing those songs live with Queen, especially for the first time that you were doing it live to an audience?
Oh, that's a great question. Having had the experience of playing in We Will Rock You for about 4 months at that time, got me used to the music, but there's no preparation for playing it live in front of an audience like that. They're the same songs and the same notes, but it's a different animal. And it's like flying a little plane and then getting behind the 747. It's just there are planes and there are planes. And the enormity of it and the power, not only just the sheer volume of it, the power of this music. Um, and playing to, I think Hyde Park, we played to 65,000 people. It's like
Wow.
It's a different wheelhouse, you
Yeah.
know, and you feel the energy too. They're not just sitting there. Um, so I would say that there's no way to really prepare to it. Just embrace it and don't let it run you over because you can really get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
The energy of the people is amazing, but it can overpower the band if you're not careful.
It can be too much stimulation, just like anything
Yeah,
in life. You have to have a balance. So, and
yeah, yeah,
maintaining that as a rock and roll star, I can understandably,
yeah.
appreciate how that balance is essential. You've also worked with artists such as Joe Lynn Turner band
Hmm.
of Rainbow and Deep Purple.
Hmm.
How did that connection originate? And tell us about the work you did with them.
Okay, when I was on Long Island before I joined Blue Oyster Cult, I started playing with some guys, one of which was playing with Alice Cooper at the time, and various touring people. And when they're off the road, you put a cover band together and play some gigs. And I got recommended, like, do you want to get together and play some Bad Company songs and, play some clubs and make a little noise? Al Pitrelli was the guitarist who's now in Trans-Siberian Orchestra, but he was playing with Alice Cooper at the time. And he goes, my friend Joe Lynn Turner wants to come out and sing. And you get to sing songs you don't normally sing. So that's how I got into that little fold. And I was the only one without a major gig, really. I was playing weddings. But they took me on to say that, well, sometimes the only difference between some people is the gig. So you
Mm.
still belong there. And they gave me a shot. So that's how I started playing with Joe. I only played with him maybe less than a dozen times. But ironically, when I played with Queen in New Jersey, he was at the show with Carmine Appice. It was
Oh,
very
okay.
cool. Very
That's a
cool to see
cool
them both.
coincidence.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you guys still stay in touch
Um,
with
yes
any of
and
the
no.
members that
Yeah,
are within the realm of the band previously, current?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. At times, infrequently, I guess you could say. Sometimes we cross paths, especially with mutual friends. But yeah, we do stay in touch. I wouldn't say everybody's spread all over the world now, so it's a little bit tougher.
Yeah. With Meat Loaf, I wanted to ask you kind of about how your introduction of working with them professionally began. You spent years touring with the legendary Meat Loaf, doing rock operas. So, how did that connection get born?
It's
Where did that
weird.
opportunity start?
Again, through the Meatloaf guys, through We Will Rock You,
Yeah,
some of
okay,
my closest friends were in Meat's band,
got it.
and he was starting to move things around in his band, and he knew me from the Queen peoples. He had seen me with We Will Rock You, so I met Meat a couple of times. Wouldn't say we were friends. So I auditioned and I got in the band, and I stayed in the band till he retired in 2017 or 2016. And a completely different type of music. But also, he brought a lot of things to the table. He was a different kind of rock star. He's an actor, and he was saying he sees things as snapshots and scenes like actors do. So you're looking at things from a perspective of how people out there see it, as opposed to looking in the mirror. We're guitar players. We're in our bedrooms practicing in front of a mirror. He's projecting out there and thinking, how does it feel from the audience perspective? Not how do I see myself? How do they see me? All about you need to move 3 feet this way. There's too many people on this side. And he sees the stage as a theater stage. And that's how he conducted his entire career and the music. So it was a beautiful thing to get a different perspective on that. And I think about it all the time. If
Yeah,
the guitar player is playing a solo, maybe I should move away a little bit, give him that room, and then set up another scene when the solo's over. He's looking 4 cars ahead, Meat,
yeah,
not like people looking at me now for what I'm doing. He's looking 4 cars ahead. Really intelligent man in the theatrical perspective, for sure.
So, with those famously theatrical, ultra deliberately, pointedly dramatic shows that he did, what for you as a musician, but as you mentioned, there was acting, there was theatrics. It was not just a concert; it was like a play,
Hmm.
with a concert. What was your chemistry like working with the band and him on stage, kind of doing something that was a little bit more like you know an opera and a concert and a symphony all together with theatrics,
Yeah, but that's a great point. It really was more like an ongoing play where almost like a soccer game.
a
It never
musical.
stops. Yeah, and it never stops. There's penalties and injuries in soccer, and the clock still goes. He saw it as one long piece. Like if you're playing, going to see a symphony, it may be broken up into segments. There's no break. Nobody stops to take a drink. Nobody smokes a cigarette. It's one long piece. So Meat saw a performance as a beginning and an end, and everything goes straight through, like a car race, too. And he was in his own world. I mean, you could drive a car past him and he won't even notice it. When he's in that performance mode, I mean, I think he sees and hears and smells everything, but he doesn't let you know that. He does not deviate. No one will throw off his game, you know?
Mhm.
And so the relationship with the band was great, but it was all eyes on him because he also was very spontaneous. He could say, stop, you got to stop on a dime for no reason sometimes, but no, we're going this way.
Yeah.
And that I love the spontaneity of it. You got to be on your feet. Quite often, the band we wouldn't look at each other, not for anything else except we gotta take a look at him, and he's got his back to us. He's out in front, so he may go something like this, or it may be a body movement where we know something's going to change here, and we got to stay with him. And so really being on your toes. There was a script, but yet that script could be torn up at any moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So of these of the past bands and artists that you've already worked with, of course, the ones that are, still active to this present day, of course, granted, are there any that, has there been any mention or conversation of going back and working with them again as a bass player or professionally? Is there anything in that terms, or what's done was already accomplished for you there?
Well, sure. Yeah. Actually, I just played with the guys. The Neverland Express, which is Meat Loaf's band, they still play, and I play with them when time permits. We just did a show in Illinois a few weeks ago, and it's called Celebrating Meat Loaf. And for a few years, we had Caleb Johnson from American Idol singing. And now they're working in a couple of different singers, but it's basically his band playing his music and celebrating it. So it's really great to revisit it with your friends and celebrating this wonderful music, which is just it's rock and roll, but it's so much more than that too. I don't know if anything before or after has kind of hit the airwaves like Meatloaf and Jim Steinman have done. Very unique. Yeah. So that keeps going. And they play. They're doing a UK tour, which I'm not able to do because I'm playing with BOC. But I
Mhm.
play with them, once in a while when I can,
Nice.
and it's great to celebrate the music. I think
Nice.
music is a celebration in general, and if it's done well, then it should happen.
Now with Blue Oyster Cult, you're currently active now as the you're a bass player. You are a backup vocalist. Do you also perform guitar, Danny, with Blue Oyster Cult, or are you just on the bass?
One weekend, I filled in. I played guitar and keyboard one weekend with them about, I don't know, maybe about 12, 13 years ago, which was odd. Um, the guy who plays guitar and keyboard was away for the weekend. And so I filled in, which is weird. Rudy Sarzo was playing bass from Quiet Riot. And I'm like, I'm on stage with Oyster Cult and I'm not the bass player. It was really surreal, really weird, but
They're like,
cool.
I feel out of place here. This is not.
Yeah, totally out of place. And I'm sure they're going, "Hey, Miranda, what are you doing behind the piano? Did you get lost on stage?" But it was cool. It was cool. Music
It's
is
like
music.
settling into one house and then getting up and having to move into another for a little bit. You're like, what? That's
Yeah,
a while to get your bearings in order. That's understandable. That's natural.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so what kind of bass specific model? We talked about the Fender, but in terms of a specific model or type of bass or guitar that you're actively playing the most right now, can you tell viewers a little bit more about it in detail, what it is?
Sure. Yeah. I play all kinds of basses, mostly Fenders, but I play Music Mans, and lately I've been playing. Actually, I have it next to me. These Reverend basses. They're out of Ohio. Thank you, Ken Haas. And I have not this one on the road, but another Reverend on the road with BOC. And that's been my main bass the last couple of years. It's a great roadworthy bass. It's very Fender-like, but it's got an extra kind of extra special sauce going on with it too. And they've been really great to me. And I love my Fenders, but the thing is uh, they start to get older, more valuable, and less fragile.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, valuable and fragile go hand in hand. And the road is not kind to your suitcases, not kind to the guitars, that's for sure. And, I love older instruments, but you're thinking everything on that guitar, including the screws and the knobs, they're 40 years old and they're not up for taking a beating. So these are new instruments and they're built like tanks and they sound great. So, but I play everything. But lately, Reverend has been my go-to basses, and they've been really wonderful to me. And I'm not officially endorsed by any company anymore, but I have really great relationships with them. If I need something from Music Man, I can contact them, and they give me a great artist courtesy. And
That's
and
fabulous.
the conversation, the communication. You could speak to the people who built these instruments and find out if it's right for you. And it's a wonderful privilege for that to get people like that on the phone because they're also madmen too. They create these things that I'm sure people around them going, "You're out of your mind. This is not going to work." And you need people really going out on a limb like that, making wonderful instruments.
Now, we all know, of course, your fantastic, history with Blue Oyster Cult. You currently hold the bass throne performing with BOC. But I wanted to see if you could kind of just give a little bit more of a in-depth kind of explanation. I've heard kind of how your audition went, but it's always fun to kind of hear a little bit of a recap. It's actually a kind of a funny story. So do you mind kind of just diving into a little bit of detail about how you were auditioned and then selected? And I understand they put you through a little bit of relentless testing before they greenlighted
Yeah.
you. So tell us all about it.
Well, it's been a 30-year audition, basically. But the BOC audition was very weird. It was me and Eric Bloom, the singer, who did not sing, and Donald Buck Dharma Roser, who played guitar. And we were in Eric's basement, and there was no drummer, there was nobody else, there was no PA system. I plugged into a little bass amp, and those little those organs that you'd see in the mall that have those rhythm machines, and you kind of play along. That's what they would play. And they say, "Okay, here, play Godzilla, play Burning for You." And it was a very bizarre audition. And I'm thinking, I don't know if they could tell if I'm the right one or not. I don't know if I could tell if I'm the right one or not. So they needed somebody sooner than later for a couple of weekends because the bass player who was playing, who they knew was leaving, had to leave sooner than later. And they said, "Can you do this weekend?" And I said yes, even though I was not prepared because I figured this is the real audition. I have 3 shows with them. And if they're not happy by the end of the weekend, then I'm not their guy.
Mm.
So it was trial by fire, and the first show was in, I think, Columbia, Missouri, and we played right after Leslie West. And I never played to 15,000 people before, and I had all charts laid out so I wouldn't forget. It was an outdoor show, and I said to my tech, "Put the charts out, please." What I didn't tell him was tape them. So a gust of wind came and all the charts flew into the audience. And I'm sitting there going,
Oh
well, this is the
no.
beginning and the end of my career. So,
Oh,
but
that's that must have been stressful that moment.
it was unbelievably
Yeah.
stressful, but yet incredibly exciting because if they said thanks, but no thanks, I could say, well, how was your weekend? Well, my weekend, I played 3 shows with an iconic band, and I got a taste of what it feels like to be in a big band like that. And I felt privileged and lucky. So if that was all that happened and they never asked me back, it was a dream come true.
Yeah.
And even though that bit of a nightmare too. So then they said, well, we need you for next weekend. And they said, listen, we didn't say you're in the band. We're still auditioning people. Okay, fine. And then sooner or later they asked me for my passport because we're going to England. And I said, not for nothing, guys. You never told me I'm in or out. And they
Wow.
still never did. So for all I know, I'm not in the band.
Oh, they were
I've just been,
testing you and grueling you like crazy.
yeah, yeah. And maybe, sometimes with guys like that, they think what's understood doesn't have to be discussed. Like, you're still here. We're not pouncing on you. We're not telling everything we hate about you. So consider that you're in, you know. So it was a bit of hazing and an audition, but yeah, I got thrown into it.
Congratulations
Thank you.
again and again. And so I know then you had those other experiences with the other bands. And then when you re-entered Blue Oyster Cult again for the second time, did they make you re-audition or was it just like, hey guys, you know what, we're back in with each other?
No, that was really beautiful, and I'm so glad that you approached that because I just want to tell this. We've always been great friends, even when I was out of the band. And there was never a year where I didn't play with them. They would always call me to fill in for either Chasm Sultan or Rudy Sarzo. Can you play a couple of weekends? And I always played with them, um, even when I was officially out of the band. So Chasm was going out with Todd Rundgren, and the manager said, "Can you stay on till the end of the year?" And at that point, Meat Loaf retired. Sure. Okay, great. So, and then he called me up and he goes, Chasm's just going to go with Todd. Why don't you just stay on? And and I remember Eric Bloom called me, and I had that at that point been friends with Eric Bloom for over 20 years. And he goes, "Well, this is unusual, isn't it?" And he goes, "You know what? Are you in? Are you this?" He goes, "You're home. And there's a seat at the table, and you're welcome to be here as long as you want." And that was actually really sweet. So I said, after 20 years, you finally tell me I'm in the band, you know. So, but that was nice. The re-entry was really, really sweet as well.
Life to date, because I know you've got a lot of answers for this question as well. What has been just the most memorable moment? And I'm talking, it could be, inspiring or exciting. It could be the wildest moment. I mean, what's just the craziest, the most memorable experience and performance you've experienced in your time touring with Blue Oyster Cult?
With Blue Oyster Cult,
Yes.
I'd have to say maybe the best one was on Long Island. There's this place called Westbury Music Fair. It's in the Round, and that was the first time that my family, including my parents, got to see me with them. And that will go down as maybe the most memorable moment because, they got to see, the dream that came true for me, and they got to see me in that. And it was a proud moment for my parents as well as my brother and sister, and for me too. And to hear them, see them meet the guys in the band, and for them all to say, "Oh, we love your son," we love Danny. that was, I'd have to say, I can't say that there would be a moment that would have been more important than
What's
that.
your, what's your favorite song to perform with BOC?
Mm, that's a good one. I
What,
love astronomy. I think I have to say astronomy.
that's a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
choice. Yeah.
Amazing piece of music.
Yeah. I
Amazing.
was
Yeah,
chatting with Jules recently about astronomy too. He was talking about how you
yeah.
guys jammed it up in the Caribbean Sea, playing it on a cruise ship.
I
So
know. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
We really turned it out.
yeah,
Historically, I gotta say it's my favorite song to listen to and to play. It's
yeah.
different every night. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ranked as one of the top five. So hopefully, when you all come down to Texas here this summer, we'll get to hear astronomy. So
I hope so. I'll put the
little
suggestion
birdie
in,
on
I
the wire
promise you.
requested that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I wanted to talk about you also have another band that has been born, in a sense, out of your work with the other members of Blue Oyster Cult, Bad Penny. So I wanted to touch
Mm.
with you about that project. Um, Tell me a little bit more about your work with Bad Penny. How did it start? And were you one of the founders of the band, or give us a little bit of background on Bad Penny because I've been listening to some of that music.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was born out of COVID, basically. Everything shut down, as we all know. And who did I get a phone call from? A producer friend of mine on Long Island. He says, you know, are you willing to do a session? And back then, sessions were being done remotely in the interest of safety and also boredom. Everybody got nothing to do. Hey, I wrote a song. Can you play on my song? And thankfully, the bandwidth and everything, you can do things from a distance. But he said, this is up in Woodstock, New York, at a great studio. And Jules would be involved as well. And this guy he knew by the name of Mike Holtzman, I didn't know him, neither did Jules. So he was like a songwriter and just hired us to do a couple of songs. And it turned into, hey, we should do more. And then it turned into Mike contacted me that I'm writing a song that I'd like to get Rob Halford from Judas Priest to sing on, but I need some help with the melody. So we collaborated on that, and I wrote the melody. And lo and behold, Rob Halford said, "Yeah, I'll sing this." So that wasn't the first thing record that we recorded, but I'd say that's what kind of put us on the map that generated some interest because it's Rob Halford for heaven's sakes. And
Yeah.
luckily nobody was busy then, not even the biggest rock stars in the world. Like, please give me something to do. I want to sing. And so he was home in Phoenix, and so that's when it kind of became a band. So every once in a while, we put a song together and we record it. We've done a song with Robert Zander, with Dee Snider, with Corey Glover,
Twisted
with
Sister.
yeah, and now with Sherry Curry from the Runaways did our most
Oh,
recent
nice.
one.
That's fantastic.
So it is cool, and it's a fun thing, and it's a band, but we've never played live. We don't tour. We're really a recording band, so you know,
Has there
like
been
Steely
any,
Dan, only cooler.
has there been any in the inner circle of Bad Penny, has there been any mention or discussion like, hey, we've got something here. Let's go ahead and take this on the road, or at least, have some standing local shows in New York where you are, to kind of get a feel for in developing a relationship with not just studio work, but for a live audience.
Yeah, there's been talk of it. Unfortunately, it hasn't come to fruition, and it's only in the interest if it's a matter of scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
So many people involved, and um, it would be weird to have subs for a band that never played live in the first place. So if this guy's not available and I'm not available, the stars just haven't aligned. It would be
Mm-hmm.
great to play this. We always had this vision of like go and play Sweden rock or something, put a band together and do a half-hour set, do our 6 songs and a couple of covers and call it a day. And maybe that day will come one day. I would really love for that to happen personally. Because especially that I'm involved, I'm a sideman, but I'm involved in the songwriting in this band, and as I feel more of a piece of the pie, so to speak, you know?
Okay. So you've composed and produced some of the material that Bad Penny has done, and
Yeah,
not just writing the notes for your bass, but you've written the musical lyrics as
right, right.
vocals.
Especially the Halford thing. I wrote the melody. And I'd love to do more of it because I write a lot of my own music. And it's good to step out of just I'm very blessed to be a bass player for these wonderful genius artists. But it's nice to give a bit of your own personality as well
Yeah.
when you can.
Yeah, and the world loves receiving it. So
Yeah,
keep up the good work.
thank
Now,
you.
yeah, of course. In addition to your studio recording albums that you've done with Bad Penny, some of the other musical acts and bands that we've spoken of, have you contributed in terms of doing studio album recordings with them, or in addition to the touring and live shows? Or, and if so, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, with Queen, we didn't get to do any recording. The one record they did with Paul Rodgers, they did everything themselves between the three of them, the principals, Paul, Roger, and Brian. They covered the bass. So, but I recorded, I think, I don't know, 3 or 4 records with Meat Loaf and about 3 or 4 records with Blue Oyster Cult. So I'm 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 lucky that I've been their bass player, like for recordings and live for both of those bands. So that's been really a thrill too, to be on these records. And with Meat Loaf, it was really cool. We did a few records and we did a few live things as well, but live DVDs and stuff. But the recordings were cool. Uh, a lot of them were done remotely. This is pre-COVID, but just everybody spread all over the country.
Mm,
But that was really cool to be off the road and to do a record in your own house. Um,
convenient.
Convenient and gives you a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Nobody's looking over your shoulder. Um, you can wear whatever you want, you know.
You have a career highlight where you performed for Nelson Mandela's 90th birthday celebration in Africa in front of thousands of people. I can only imagine how exhilarating that was. How did that get organized? How did that invitation get arranged? And what was that experience like for you? What happened?
Actually, we performed for Mr. Mandela twice. The first time, just to clarify, it was our first Queen gig, by the way. The first
Okay.
Queen gig post Freddie was in Fancourt, South Africa, and it was a celebration of his prison number was 46664. That was his prison number, and that became the campaign for his fight against HIV/AIDS, which
Mm,
was and still runs rampant in Africa.
mm.
And so it was a big celebration. Annie Lennox, us, and I think we were the only non-African bands there. It was a big festival. So that was the first time we performed for Mr. Mandela. The second time was in Hyde Park in London for his 90th birthday. And there was Amy Winehouse was there, Elton
Oh,
John, Stevie Wonder, all kinds of whose names escape me. Josh Groban was there. Um, I don't remember who else, but it was a celebration. It was really wonderful.
beautiful.
And he was 90 and he had a smile that it can't be described. It came from the purest place
A lot
in
of
the
warmth
soul. Yeah,
to his personality.
yeah.
Yeah. Very,
It was
very,
being in the presence of greatness,
yeah.
like I've never felt, and probably never will again as a performer.
That's beautiful. Is there, of all the places you've been around the world internationally, is there been a particular country that's been your most favorite to visit and perform in?
Great one. I would say I love performing in Italy. Uh, I love performing in Vienna.
Mm,
The Spanish countries, especially Barcelona, Madrid.
yeah.
Um, it's tough to beat. It's really
Yeah.
tough to beat. But Ukraine, we had this big concert in Ukraine, which is the most people I've ever performed with. There were
Wow.
350,000 people there.
Was this
And
before the war started
oh
or?
yeah, Where we performed is no longer there.
So
Nothing
sad.
there at all now. Yeah. And it was
Because
really beautiful.
some of these
Really,
bands, yeah, some of these fans that don't even know, English as their second language, they have the lyrics memorized to some of the songs that you're performing, in
hmm
English.
yeah. Yeah.
So, looking ahead, are there any artists that you would like to collaborate with, or anyone that if you could have a choice that's still possible today that you would love to collaborate with? Who are your heroes? Who would you like to work with if you had?
Oh, oh God, there were so many. The first one has to be Elton John because my love affair with music begins and ends with Elton John. He is my ultimate musical hero, always has been, besides my brother, and always will be. I'd love to play with Stevie Wonder, um, Todd Rundgren,
Ah,
um, Sting, Paul McCartney, um, the ones that are still alive. I would love to say Miles Davis and John Coltrane and John Lennon. Um, I'd say those are the people right off the bat that I would say. James Taylor, definitely. Um, Singer-songwriters mostly. You know, Jimmy Page. Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Led
Um,
Zeppelin. I
yeah, I
still
mean,
wish they would do a reunion, him and Plant. I mean, it's just like the whole world is begging them.
I
And
know.
Mr.
Uh,
Plant, he says he's outgrown, what was that was then and this is now, as
yeah,
our friend Vance, singwriter for the
Mm,
Monkees, famously
yeah.
quoted. So, you never know.
You
So,
never know. You never know, but do it sooner than later, and sooner is better.
yeah, yeah.
You know.
Is there anything else that you want to mention or anything else on the horizon coming up that you would want to share with viewers as we begin to wrap up our time together?
Well, I mean, we got more touring this year with Blue Oyster Cult, and I'm still doing a lot of my recordings. I do different kinds of music, a lot of instrumental, a lot of new age stuff, and I want to start putting my music out. And so I'm looking forward to taking advantage of more time off now, so I can finish this stuff. And I want to just put out a bunch of my music out there and and keep moving forward with that.
If viewers ever wanted to have the opportunity to hear any of your music composition on the air with the Golden Life Rocks, would that ever be a potential possibility?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd love that to happen.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you just
Yeah,
let us know when we're
I
how.
will.
We're always here and open for that.
I will. I love that. I love hearing that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, all right. We'll chat more about doing a follow-up segment in that regard.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds great.
Well, it has been an honor connecting with you and conversing with you today. Danny, you are a man, you have great energy. You've brought profound purpose and a lot of fantastic work to the world. So thank you for what you do and what you bring. And yeah, we'll keep rocking and keep grooving and never stop, my friend.
Thank you, and thank you for what you bring to the table. You have such a great wide audience and diverse audience, and you are a projector of of this, and so we really do appreciate it, and I certainly do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, my family all has some kind of musical uh, history with in one way or shape or form. My uncle played bass and cello back in the heydays of Motown with Kenny Burrell,
No
and
way.
my mom had a radio station in Santa Barbara, California, called The Music of Many Lands. My mom actually dated BB King, and my cousin is a guitarist, and my uncle repairs guitars in Detroit. So everybody has some spot. Some
Everybody's got their hand in the music.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
beautiful. I
So
love that.
well, it was great meeting
Fantastic.
you. Yeah, it's great meeting you. And unless if there's anything else you want to share or say, you've been listening to the Golden Life Rocks podcast with Danny Miranda. So y'all have a blessed day. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
We will see you. Thank you, Candace.
Okay, thank you, Danny.
Talk soon.